In the name of the God of life and reason, beyond whom no greater thought can pass, the God who gifted humanity with intellect and understanding so that, through the light of knowledge, love, and truth, we may find the right path and free ourselves from the chains of ignorance and oppression. And with greetings to you, dear ones, greetings to you, seekers of truth. Today, I want to introduce to you, with full evidence and proof, one of humanity's greatest enemies, the Qur'an. I will speak about the most serious and dangerous effects of the Qur'an on humankind, from violence and killing, to slavery, discrimination, and the restriction of knowledge and free thought. This speech is not intended to insult, but to awaken and encourage questioning. Every verse I quote comes directly from the Qur'an itself, not from anything I have invented. Humanity has two great enemies. One is the Qur'an, passed down to Muslims for over 1,400 years. The other is ignorance. Yes, ignorance. And where does ignorance come from? From the Qur'an, which has forbidden science and progress. That is why we must turn directly to the Qur'an itself, the same Qur'an in which you believe, the one that now sits in your home. Surah At-Tawbah 9:29 says, "Fight those who do not believe in Allah or the last day, nor hold as forbidden what Allah and His Messenger have forbidden, nor acknowledge the religion of truth from among the people of the book until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued." Yes, this is the sweet language of Allah, commanding you to fight the people of the book until they pay tribute in humiliation. The Qur'an, in its threatening tone, openly bans human values like knowledge, freedom, and independent thinking. Forbidden. My friends, forbidden. Do not think. Do not learn. Do not ask. Do not ask why Allah, according to His own words, is holding firmly to the heavens so they won't fall. And if you dare to say, "But the heavens have no gravity to fall," you are a kafir and must be killed. The rigid and limiting laws of the Qur'an kept our ancestors, generation after generation, in the darkness of ignorance and illiteracy. When I look at a picture of my grandfather, it feels like a living image of a primitive man from deep history, not by his own fault, but because of the mental chains and so-called heavenly commands that deprived him of the right to know and to progress. And who is most to blame? This very Qur'an which, instead of lighting the way, extinguished the lamp of reason. And today, Prince Ali Hibatullah Akhundzada and the rest of the Taliban, clutching the same Qur'an passed down like a cursed inheritance, have brutally cut off the path of education, freedom, and progress for our people. Using that same book which, centuries ago, chained reason and thought, they have locked the gates of schools, silenced the universities, and buried the dreams of a nation. They have turned Afghanistan into a burning hell where poverty, like a raging flood, sweeps away homes and families, and misery hangs like a heavy shadow over every street and market. In this land, a child who should grow up with books and pens grows up with fear and ignorance. A young person who should build their future with hope and knowledge spends their days in despair and aimlessness. This bitter fate is the result of rulers who inherited religion instead of discovering truth, who brought ruin instead of prosperity, and darkness instead of light. And until this chain is broken from the feet of our people, the hell of Afghanistan will only burn hotter. And you, my fellow countrymen, know this. You, too, share in the great sin of Prince Ali Hibatullah Akhundzada. As long as you remain ignorant of the religion you inherited without question from your ancestors, you will remain a mental slave, chained by ignorance. This ignorance will not only destroy you, but will burn the generations to come. Know that religious ignorance is like a slow poison, quietly drying the roots of wisdom and freedom, killing hope and dreams, and turning you into a tool for the same oppressors who drain the blood of the nation. Every time you close your eyes to truth and refuse to question, you fuel the fire of tyranny. For this reason, you, too, are partners in the crimes of Prince Ali Hibatullah Akhundzada. The truth is this. To abandon reason and intellect is not only to halt human growth, but to remain trapped in superstition and baseless fears, as Muslims have been for 1,400 years. You must know your friends and your enemies if you wish to reach the place you truly deserve. If you read the Qur'an directly, in your own language, and analyze it without fear, the veil will be lifted, and you will see that the greatest enemy of your freedom, progress, and peace has been hiding all along in the very place you thought was sacred. Let us now turn to the promotion of violence and religious war inherited from the Qur'an. The Qur'an in Surah At-Tawbah 9:5 says, "When the sacred months have passed, then kill the polytheists wherever you find them, capture them, besiege them, and lie in wait for them at every opportunity. But if they repent, establish prayer, and give zakat, then let them go on their way. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful." This verse is famously called the verse of the sword. It says, kill the polytheists wherever you find them. Capture them, besiege them. Meaning freedom of belief? None. Freedom of thought? Zero. For centuries, this verse has been the primary justification for religious violence. This very verse has drenched Afghanistan in blood. Look at what the Taliban are doing. Citing this verse from the Quran, they deny girls the right to attend school. Using this verse, they kill or drive into exile the young intellectuals. Quoting this verse, they declare apostasy a crime and sentence free thinkers to death. In Herat, in Kandahar, in Kabul. How many people have vanished? How many mothers have buried their children in silence? Mullahs like Hibatullah Akhundzada have destroyed our country with this verse. ISIS has ravaged our land using this verse. Bashar al-Assad, invoking this same verse, carried out the October 7th massacre, killing hundreds of innocent people. And so on. This has been going on for 1,400 years. Starting with the Prophet of Islam and continuing to this very day, all in the name of the same inherited religion. Now ask yourself, are these the words of God, or the words of the devil? Only reason and humanity can answer that, not blind inheritance. My brother, my sister. As long as you follow this book blindly, as long as you refuse to ask why, you too share in the crimes committed in its name. This evidence shows that the Quran is the primary cause of the mass killings in Afghanistan. It shows that the Quran is the root cause of Afghanistan's poverty. It shows that the Quran is behind every injustice that has been inflicted upon this land throughout history, not the British, not the Americans, but the same Quran that has been passed down to you as an inheritance. Now let's look at another verse, Surah Al-Baqarah 2:191. Kill them wherever you find them, and drive them out from where they drove you out, and persecution is worse than killing. But do not fight them at the sacred mosque unless they fight you there. But if they fight you, then kill them. Such is the recompense of the disbelievers. A short sentence, but within it lies centuries of bloodshed and destruction. A command that thinks neither of justice nor of mercy, but only of eliminating those who cannot believe the lies of the Quran. And what has been the result of these verses? Centuries of war, genocide, massacres, and the burning of civilizations. Look at history. When the Arabs, under the banner of these very verses, invaded Persia, the Levant, and Egypt, they not only slaughtered thousands but also destroyed languages, cultures, and native sciences. Libraries were burned, and in their place came religious ignorance. And today, these verses still breathe. The Taliban still shed Afghan blood with these and similar verses. ISIS uses these very words to bomb mosques and marketplaces. Extremist groups label dissenters as disbelievers and issue death sentences from God. This chain of violence has run unbroken from the 7th century to the present day, from the swords of the Arabs falling upon the necks of Persians and Romans, to the Taliban's roadside bombs in Kabul and Kandahar. A verse that could have, if it were from a true God, spread a message of peace, instead sowed seeds of hatred and bloodshed. And as long as these verses remain sacred and unquestioned in people's minds, this cycle of death will never end. Now let us move to other verses from your inherited Quran. Surah An-Nisa 4:24, regarding female captives in war. And, forbidden to you are, married women except those whom your right hand possesses. This is the decree of Allah upon you. And lawful to you are, all others, beyond these, provided that you seek them, in marriage, with your wealth, desiring chastity, not unlawful sexual intercourse. So for whatever you enjoy from them, give them their due compensation as an obligation. And there is no blame upon you for what you mutually agree to beyond the obligation. Indeed, Allah is knowing and wise. Surah Al-Mu'min 23:6, regarding female captives and slaves. They guard their private parts except from their wives or those their right hands possess, for indeed, they are not to be blamed. What does this mean in reality? Legalized rape and sexual slavery. Quranic verses, such as An-Nisa 24 and Al-Mu'min 6, explicitly legitimize the ownership of female captives, even if they are married. In other words, these verses create a legal framework for what we now call lawful rape and sexual slavery. These commandments not only justify oppression but elevate it to the level of a divine right. Women who have no power of choice over their lives are reduced to tools for fulfilling religious decrees, both body and soul enslaved. Real examples. Yazidi women in Iraq and Syria, captured by ISIS, tortured, and raped simply because they did not share the captors' religion. In Afghanistan, extremist groups and the Taliban have, in recent years, banned girls and women from attending school, forced them into arranged marriage.